Hey Kevin, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, you well? You happy?
Minor technical issue earlier, but
These things
resolved.
happen. These things
Apologies,
happen.
everybody.
Exactly. This is why I mean, you're used to, solving technical issues on the fly, right? So it's all good.
It's not the first time.
It's not the first time, exactly. The one or two demo it's come up and has happened. Anyway, do you want to quickly introduce yourself before we get going, and then we can start?
Yeah, sure. Let me see. I should maybe do the bio version, I suppose, that people have probably seen lots of times already, but I do it again. So my name's Kevin Chant. I'm a data engineering manager living in the Netherlands. However, as people listening might be able to pick up on, I'm actually originally from the southwest of the UK. However, I live in the Netherlands due to the fact my wife is Dutch. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, exactly.
Know how it goes, yeah.
So, cut
Yeah,
a long story short, we met many years ago in Australia. Then we met back up again many years later. And then by the end of that year, I was living in the Netherlands.
that's really cool. I like that. Similar-ish to my wife and I. We didn't meet in Australia, but we had in the first year of our relationship, I was in Australia. So, yes. Nice. That's
Yeah,
quite cool. And did the van in the background play any part of this, or was that a newer acquisition?
yeah. So the fan is actually our wedding vehicle.
That's really
So
funny. Yeah.
So in the Netherlands, and it caught me a bit by surprise,
Hmm.
and obviously anyone from Netherlands may be aware of this already. When you get married over here, the tradition is to actually pick the bride up from your home.
Really?
So yeah. So whereas I'm used to the traditions in the UK where you meet in the church, I had to pick my wife up from our home here in the Netherlands. So it was debating which vehicle to get, and then I was like, you know what, I get a camper van. It's us really. So
That's pretty cool. I like it a lot. But actually, it's funny because when I saw the photograph of the camper van in the background, I was thinking, oh, that's really cool because I can mention the fact that when my wife and I got married, that was pretty much exactly our wedding vehicle. We hired one of those vans and we had like a chauffeur-driven camper van all day. It was really cool. So this is quite funny. I like it.
yeah. We had a similar situation briefly. My wife's brother drove for a bit, but yeah, the most of the time I was driving. It's
Love it.
actually me.
So oh nice, I like it. So wait, so does that mean you were staying sober the entire day? There was not a drink and you were just, that's impressive.
Oh, only I drove to pick her up, and then we left the camper van at the venue. Somebody else dropped it off for the next day.
I get you. Not that I was trying to get you in trouble. I was just curious.
No, it's fine. It's for driving, picking her up, going off to get the photos taken, that kind of thing. Driving her
Nice.
in down the
Cool.
road.
It's beautiful. I love those old camper vans. They're
Yeah.
amazing vehicles.
The
Gee,
funny thing is as well
yeah.
that completely by accident, our wedding photographer is actually the father of another well-known MVP in our city.
Really?
Yeah. So
That's cool.
I was talking. So Sanders Stad offered to pick me up to take me to a secret Saturday just before before our wedding many years ago.
Mm,
So he was taking me there. I said, "Yeah, we're looking for a wedding photographer, etc.,
yeah.
etc." And he went, "Oh, my dad's a wedding photographer."
Okay.
So I messaged my wife, going, "Oh, I think I got the details for somebody in Soetermeer." And my wife goes, "Oh, well, actually, I've got an appointment with somebody else. What's his name?" And it turned out to be the same person.
That's awesome. Love it. That's really cool, man.
So it was so funny.
And how long have you been in the? How many years lived in the Netherlands now?
I have to remember myself, just over 8 years now.
All right.
So officially, I registered on December the 30th or 29th. No, yeah, 29th,
Remember the date. That's really cool.
2015.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. And you like it out there? You been loving life in the Netherlands?
Yeah, it's good. It's a different way of living from the UK, different atmosphere.
Sure.
Yeah, it's really nice to be honest. I quite like it.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad lives southwest down in the UK, by the way. He lives like in Dorchester.
I know Dorchester very well.
It's a lovely
So
little town.
actually, I'm originally used to live just over the border, pretty much. So around Yeovil, Crewkerne area. So I know Dorchester very well.
There you go. Look how connected we are. Love it already. And was so, but before you moved across, we was data was already a thing, right? You're already a seasoned data engineer or whatever you called yourself.
Yeah. So many years ago, actually, well, kind of started out as a systems engineer. So I was actually doing operating systems, servers, and that kind of thing.
Mm.
And then I think it was around 2006. I've been doing a lot of stuff with data over in different places over a while. And then one of the manager I had at the time when I was living in Poole went, "Oh, well, actually, I'm seeing you're doing a lot of SQL. Do you like want to come and work for the SQL team here?" And I went, "Yeah, fine." And it turned out, even though I was living in a completely different town, I was actually working alongside somebody I studied at college with back in Yeovil.
That's so cool. Love it.
So that was my first proper full-time data gig, and I was working with SSRS quite a lot.
Okay.
So it was quite still fairly new back then, so not many people knew about it. So I had to get in depth knowing how to do stuff, interesting things with RDL and stuff like that.
So what year was this again?
2006.
2006. All right, fair enough. So.
Yeah,
it's 2006 is that year where it's you forget how long ago it actually was, right? Because anything that's 2000, it just feels like, oh yeah, it was, and then you go, oh no, it's very, very.
It's like quite some time ago now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just like
so, yeah.
When I realized, like when I say, oh yeah, I've been working with Power BI since like 2006, and in my head that's still only like 3 years or something. And 2016, not 2006, 2016. And it's still like a few years, but it's not. It's coming up. It's coming up a whack. It feels quite strange.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's 10 years ago now since I did a lot of stuff with Power Review. But that was like 2013, 2014. I was doing stuff with that.
I would be interested when I talk about like Power BI and explain the concept of what the tool is and trainings and stuff. I always mention Power View, and I'll talk about, of course, Power Pivot and Power Query, obviously, and I'll mention Power View. And I always just miss out Power View, but no one ever really used that, so you probably never heard of it. I would be curious as to how many people ever actually use Power View. It seems to be like it was a very, yeah.
Well, I used it, but the truth is that for a lot of places and a lot of people, they always preferred a never, let's just say, well-known product that didn't require Silverlight. So
Fair.
If you worked with people that had iPads, then yeah, they were like, yeah, does it work without Silverlight? No. But how can you get it to work? Yes, we do X, Y, Z. But they were like, no.
Yeah.
This other application, the other well-known tool, was their preference.
I forgot about Power Maps, by the way. Donald saying he used
it.
I forgot about Power Maps. There you go.
Oh, that was brilliant. So you go into Excel, you go in, you start, you do everything there.
Yeah.
Well, I built a Power View. Well, I say built a Power View server. I installed a SharePoint on there with the Power View. Well, technically the Power Pivot report service running, so you could run Power View SharePoint. So when I lived in the UK, I went to a few places and actually did a session about it, running the VM locally on my laptop.
That's awesome.
So I had this laptop at the time, and I got it running SharePoint and Power View as well, working from a browser on my actual local machine. So it was a very ambitious setup.
And I'm thinking, I mean, regarding demos going wrong, that sounds risky.
It's very risky. You had to check to make sure, because this is back when I was doing a lot more with Hyper-V as well.
Okay.
So I had to check that everything was working properly with Hyper-V. Everything was tweaked because, yeah, you're running SharePoint on a VM on a laptop and you want it to perform well.
Yeah.
So it would take a bit of time to set up before the session, I must admit. But
yeah. And then make a few offerings to the demo gods, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's funny because back then, not many people are doing demos based on it, but I was doing an AdventureWorks demo. And now, of course, these days, what do people use a lot for their demos and Power BI?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. It's all you see, right?
Yeah,
Oh, that's really
exactly.
cool.
So it was quite funny. And I even remember going in and saying to people, yeah, if you click on this and this, and you can see that people that bought this certain clothing
Yeah,
also bought this as well. And
yeah.
yeah, it was a,
Not bad, not bad. We've come so far, right, mate, from those days of all those little hacky workarounds to get some like power maps to work. Do you
yeah.
miss it? Do you miss it at all? Like that little the work that you had to do?
Yeah, well, at times, I mean, these days things are a lot easier for me because I'm doing a lot more with obviously fabric.
Mm,
But when I look back and I think to myself, obviously I had to do that with SharePoint in the past, and then I went from there
mm.
because well, somebody decided it'd be a good idea to give me another interesting challenge to build a Hadoop cluster.
All right.
So I had to, and I built that cluster on my laptop as well. So
That
Hadoop
laptop's taking
and
some abuse, man.
Hadoop, and yeah, it was a very good laptop at the time. So I was working with Hadoop, and then I had to went through setting up Spark afterwards.
Okay.
And all of this was all on like VMs or some of it on physical hardware.
Mm, mm,
And now these days I go into Fabric and it's like click, click. I don't have to worry about clusters. I don't have to worry about setting up a convoluted service just to be able to run some reports and
mm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm.
What is your day to day like these days? What do you find yourself doing like on a daily basis? What occupies most of your time?
That's a very, very good question. It's a very interesting one. I do a lot of work for clients these days because I work for a consultancy. I won't company I work for. I'm too much of a professional for that.
I love it. That's a good response. I can use that one.
A little bit of branding here and there is always good for a bit of a joke element. So yeah, I do a lot of consulting. I talk to a lot of companies at the moment, especially to do with fabric, because I've been worked on it for quite some time. I did a private preview as well.
All right, of course.
So in addition to that, I've inadvertently ended up becoming a trainer for the infamous DP 600 exam.
All right, very cool.
So the fabric certification. So I got asked if I wanted to train a few people, and that's kind of snowballed a little bit. And I also end up creating all the custom content for the exam as well for my employer.
That's cool.
So yeah,
That
so
sounds like a lot of fun.
it is. I did a training today for people actually. You know, I experimented with something new.
Mm.
It's internal training, so I won't say too much, but it's safe to say it gained their interest, and yeah,
very cool.
it is a good challenge, especially when everybody knows that there are some differences between the recommended material and the study guide. I think that's quite well-known knowledge. So we had to pretty much create the custom material to kind of fill the gap.
Mm-mm.
So I spent a lot of time doing that. I've had help from a couple of other colleagues as well, both UK based.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kept me quite busy as well.
I can well imagine. Sorry, I just flipped around. I realized I always put me in the bottom, and so you should be on the top. So just
I can do this.
Exactly, that guy up there.
There's a bit more continuity, maybe. I mean, well, it's the same, isn't
it? Love it. Trainings. I mean, do you generally speaking enjoy giving trainings? It's something that I think is a lot of fun.
Personally. Yeah, so I've done a lot of training for people over the years. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer as well. Maybe I forgot to add about that part earlier. So I have done quite a fair bit of training for people over the years. A lot of the time it has been custom training material. And to be honest, I think a lot of it stems from one of my previous roles where I had to do a lot of documentation for people. And I'm allowed to say in the defense industry, that's fine. I'm not going to break any official secrets acts or anything. So I had to do some custom documentation back then for people. And I think it's just snowball. Well, moved on from there, really.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's something. If I think about the job that I do, the part that I get most satisfaction out of, it's like really it's enjoyable. I mean, most of the trainings that I do now are of like remote. I work for a remote company, so we very rarely get a chance to. I mean, so I kind of miss sometimes those, everyone in a room kind of talking. It's much more the atmosphere. I wouldn't say the atmosphere is, nicer, but it's just easier to conduct a training that way,
Yeah.
But still, it's always fun.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I did it remotely for a large audience was during lockdown.
Okay.
So I had to do it for a former client.
Hmm.
And rather interestingly, you have to excuse me, my alarm.
No worries.
Rather interestingly, at the time,
Hmm.
they asked me to do Azure DevOps because obviously I do a lot of CI/CD for data platform stuff. So all the different Azure services, not so much of the Power BI stuff back then. Obviously now that's slightly changed.
Yeah.
So they got me to do a lot of stuff on it because I had a steep learning curve myself with Azure DevOps. So I had to do it for a large audience remotely for a whole day. And then I
Nice.
had to go back and do it for a second day. So I kind of had to get used to doing these sessions in front of large audiences
Hmm.
remotely,
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
using Teams. And it was an interesting experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's for me. I think really that is quite hard sometimes is when you're doing a training and it's like everyone has their camera switched off, which I
Yeah.
understand people like to do that sometimes, but I always just like it that there's at least one person when the camera switched on, so I feel like I can like direct my conversation at someone. It's,
Exactly.
it's strange to be in a situation where you can't really see any facial like there's no responses. You can't see
No
anyone's.
response.
Yeah, you don't know
You
any
ask people to put
name.
comments in the chat, and sometimes you'll only get a handful of them, and it's like, are the
Yeah,
rest of them still there?
exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, to be honest, on that, because I mean, I'm excited how you feel when we did a session, a couple of us co presented a session a few years back during lockdown, and it was one of these pre recorded sessions that you do
Mm.
for events.
Yeah,
As you know, because you did one recently as well.
I did. Yes.
So, what two of us actually decided to do, we improvised a bit. We thought, well, yeah, we can just record, but we can do like everybody else. We can just record differently. And then we went, well, actually, why don't we record in Teams? And then we went, well, if we're going to record in Teams, why don't we just grab a couple of our friends in and get them to sit in the Teams meeting for the session?
Ah, that's a
So
cool idea.
we
Yeah.
literally for an event, pre-recorded a session with two other people in the Teams meeting as well, and it was fine. It
That's
made
a
it
good
work.
idea. I really like that. I
So
might
we had
steal
some
that.
really positive feedback about that session.
Yeah, I can imagine because so I understand like for event organizers they have to deal with lots of complexities that I can't even think of. So I can see the benefit of the pre-recorded sessions. But I prefer doing the live session. Pre-recorded just feels a bit more like, I mean, obviously it's good because you can make sure there's no technical problems and stuff, but again I feel like I'm talking to someone. So to pre-record it and have like a small audience, I can see the benefit of that. And I think also people who, as you said yourself, you got good feedback, so the people who are watching it kind of enjoyed it more as well, perhaps. Not too shabby.
Yeah, but,
I like it.
we like to experiment and do different things.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and you mentioned about conferences and having a live experience or a pre-recorded one. I'm actually surprised you haven't picked up the other thing that may seem a little bit familiar about the camper fan yet.
About the camper van.
Yeah,
Oh, now you put me on the spot. I feel like I'm missing something obvious. Now I feel
that's fine.
bad.
So usually,
Yeah.
and this has happened more than once.
Hmm.
So I've been sat in meetings with people, and they've turned around to me and gone, "Do you know your camper fan looks like the Data Weekender fan?"
Take the weekend. Oh God, Jesus.
And I've gone,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
"Really?
Well, now
That's
you
an
see
interesting coincidence."
Very true. I like it. That's a good man. I'm so slow sometimes. It's true. Very cool. But also, just on the topic of things that are green, is your is your hoodie like a fabric hoodie or something?
Oh yeah. So
Oh, are you gone? Am I gone? Am I still there, or is Kevin? I think I'm still there. Okay, I think Kevin's gone, and we're looking at his hoodie. I'm not sure at the moment. So can someone? Yeah, broke the internet. Indeed, the power of the fabric pulley was too strong for the internet.
Apparently, it was definitely. So, anyway, I have no idea what happened there. When I was in Germany, I was at a SQL conference,
Yeah,
and Microsoft were there. And to cut a long story short, I ended up with this hoodie because I was in the right place at the right time.
nice. That always helps. Yeah. But if there's, so basically, I'm the only one who didn't realize it was the day weekend event. I love that.
Don't worry. I've been in meetings and people have asked and said to me, "Do you know your fan looks a bit like the Data Weekender fan?"
Very
Because
cool.
a lot of people, yeah. I mean, unless you've been at the start of Data Weekender during the day or in the breaks on the session that I'm moderating, nobody's actually
Hmm.
not really seen what I look like on camera, unless obviously they've seen one of my sessions. So
Yeah, very much so.
if I'm in a meeting with somebody and then they pick up on it and they go, "Oh, you know what it looks
Nice.
like?"
Actually, thinking about sessions, are you in? I'm going to the Netherlands next week to Utrecht for Power BI. Oh, I can't pronounce the word. It's
Power BI Gebruikersdag,
that's the
user
one. Thank you
day.
so much. Yes, I am. I'm going to that. Will you be there?
I have to be a bit busy sorting other things out because the week after that is MPP Summit.
Ah, of course.
So
Yes.
to,
Yes.
to cut a long story short, I'm going to MVP Summit and Fabric Conference, and then I'm coming back to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So that's a 3 week period that I will be away. So I'm a little bit busy next week.
So, there's a lot. It seems like a very busy period for conferences. There's a lot of big stuff going on, right?
Yeah, it happens in bursts. It's happening later in the year for a lot of conferences as well.
Yeah.
So this year I've made a choice to stay after MPP Summit and then go to the Fabric Conference.
Okay. That's nice. That'd
So
be good fun. I've heard a lot about the Fabric conference. It's in Las Vegas, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Looks pretty cool. You'll have a lot of fun,
so
I'm sure.
it's in Las Vegas. It's at the MGM Grand, if I remember correctly. So well,
Wow.
I know it's at the MGM Grand. So
Yeah. It's
it,
so
it should be. I've never been there myself, so it's going to be an interesting first for me. So even though I've been to quite a few places in the world, I've never
yeah.
been to Vegas.
Yeah. That, I mean, I haven't been to many conferences. I'm starting to ramp it up a little bit now. Obviously, we saw each other in Oslo like a month ago, right? Or a few
We
weeks ago.
did.
That was really cool because not just for the conference, which was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I thought the venue was. What I loved about the venue in was Fabric February. It was just the standing at the front when you were presenting and like having lots of like just cinema seats. Just looked really nice. It was just a very aesthetically pleasing place.
Are you due to speak at Tekorama this year,
Hmm?
or are you going to submit for the other Tekorama in the Netherlands? So the Tekoramas over here are actually
Okay.
hosted in theaters as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, it is interesting experience.
Yeah.
So anybody that's seen my sessions as of late know that I have what I now call these days comically large font and application sizes. So I make sure that my browser is big enough for people to see. I
Okay.
use Azure Data Studio if I'm doing anything, for example, with Synapse or Fabric, because I can just
Mm.
press Control plus and minus. And I have a comically large mouse cursor.
Yes, actually I've been asked by a couple of my colleagues sometimes because even on my work computer I use like a really large cursor and it's like I think it's like quite a bright color so it's very easy to see. And I think because when you're
Yeah.
showing someone it's just right there, it looks really cool. It's a good one to have.
So I presented just after starting to do all of this with the large mouse cursor. I presented at Tekorama here in the Netherlands.
Nice. Yeah.
So went there, set everything up on the big screen and everything with all
Mhm.
my large fonts, synced in browser, etc.
Yeah.
I look, buddy, can you all see the screen okay? Now, this was a full-size cinema screen. So you can imagine that somebody looked up in the audience and went, if not, we have to go to. And then, of course, they mentioned a well-known optical place.
I think we can say it's okay. We're not going to. We can say Specsavers. I think it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm,
that's
I'm,
all right.
I'm not sponsored by someone else. Should have gone classic. Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Oh, other optical places are available. There you go. We're safe.
Exactly. Nice one. I see what you did there. Thank you for saving me just in case I was going to get in trouble from someone. In Oslo, they asked me like 24 hours in advance to do a second session. I was meant to be doing the one just with my caller. We did like this, but like live, this live stream live from
I saw
Oslo,
it.
which was really good fun. I really enjoyed it. But like I said before, they asked me to do the second, and I hadn't read any of the stuff regarding these are our slide templates, use these are our guidelines, because I didn't have any slides from my other session. So I said, okay, I've got to do this other session now, so let's go through and see what they say. And like the first one was like, don't use any bright colors. And I was like, oh, obviously there's me with all my orange slides. I'm like, God damn. So I had to go through it all and just make it and use that template. It was like just this manic, just changing of colors and stuff.
Yeah.
I got there.
I think quite a few of us did the same because, like you, we all have like the bright slides because we're all taught, for contrast, have the white backgrounds.
Yeah.
So it's easier for everybody's eyes and the brain to understand. Yeah, obviously, when you're presenting in a theatre, the rules change.
Yeah,
true. And you end up, unfortunately, blinding the audience.
Exactly.
That's the one time that I will say to recommend people to use dark mode in their applications.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen people use dark mode before in a well-lit room, and it can be problematic.
Yeah, true. I sometimes feel I'm the only person who works in data who actually doesn't really use dark mode. I think I really like when dark mode got announced for Power BI, whatever it was. I was like, yeah, okay. Everyone was happy. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, well, like someone said in the chat, dark mode is just self, not for others. To be honest, I prefer working in light mode. It's a lot of it is to do with how people's brains work. To be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of people have the preference for can help with a lot of things with how you can recognize certain words and things like that. Like I said, it all depends on how your brain wired effectively. So for me, I stick working with light mode as well. So don't worry about it. I did at first go for dark mode on everything. And then I was like, well, yeah, but after a while, for me, it was a bit like giving your home computer a name. But after so many years, it's kind of like I don't bother anymore.
Oh my God, I love that so much. It's so true. Because back in the day, it's like, oh, it's a new computer. Oh my God, that's fantastic. True.
I'm going to call my computer do.
Yeah,
and now it's like, I don't bother.
Yeah, it's just a computer.
What I still do, and I must admit, is if I have a Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone, then I come up with creative names.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true.
And I know I'm not the only one that does it because, as we all know, when you go on public transport, you see other interesting names as well.
That's true. You do.
So I've been on trains and somebody's had stuff like Batcave and stuff like that. You see all the names appear.
Yeah, it's just like this very strange opportunity to get creative. I had to set up my Wi-Fi at home again the other day because we got sent new hardware because the other one was broken. And because I'm from the northeast of England, I decided I would call my home Wi-Fi. I called it Wi-Fi. And I was like, yeah, there you go. That'll do me. And if you know, if you don't know about the UK, in the northeast of England, we're kind of known to say YI instead of like yes, be like YI man. So yes, Wi-Fi.
And when you move, you're going to call it Biker Grove, yeah?
Biker Grove, yeah. bit of PJ and Duncan.
Sorry, people outside of the UK who may not get the reference.
People outside the UK who are under the age of, I don't know, 30, I'm not sure. Oh my God. Yeah. But it's a very on-point topic for people who are English and over in our age group, basically.
But then at the same, on the reverse side of it, I've used an Only Fools and Horses reference before, thinking
All right.
nobody would get this to European people in other European countries,
Yeah.
and somebody's picked up on it.
It's funny you should mention it. I've completely forgot the nationality of my two of my former colleagues, and for that I apologize to them, even though they'll never watch this. So my previous job, two of the data engineers were from, you know what, I've actually forgotten whether it was an Eastern European country, and they knew Only Fools and Horses really well because in that country, Only Fools and Horses was also really popular. It was like huge. They
I
did
think I know the
all.
country.
You think you know it?
Yeah, because I have a funny feeling it's from the same country that this other person picked it up from. So well, you said Eastern, but maybe more Central. I
Yeah.
think maybe Croatia.
It wasn't Croatia. It
It
wasn't.
wasn't. Oh,
And when it was it like was it Slovenia maybe? I don't
so
know. I
I've
think
heard it.
it's close, close. I think it was Slovenia, so close to Croatia, but
It's
um,
like a small border between them. I've
exactly.
even gone from Slovenia to Croatia before by bus.
Nice, very
So,
nice. Yeah.
true fact, if you're traveling to Croatia, Zagreb, hey, travel trip, everybody. If you're traveling to Croatia from certain places, it actually can work out cheaper. To fly to Ljubljana in Slovenia and catch the Flixbus over the border, it
Solid
can
point.
work out a lot cheaper than actually traveling directly to certain places in Croatia.
That's a pretty decent tip, actually. Nice one.
And it's a moderately priced bus.
Yeah.
So all you do, you go to the airport. There's a bus from the airport to the bus station in Ljubljana. You get off there,
Hmm.
walk 100 meters up the road, you
Hmm.
catch a Flixbus, and you just sit there, relax. Takes you over the border.
Nice. I've got to say, when I think of Flixbus, it reminds me quite a lot of my dad because it was a couple of years ago now, I forget when exactly, doesn't matter. He wanted to go from Berlin, and I believe he was going from Berlin to Prague.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't, and he um and I said, okay, then fine, you can get the train and you're there and whatever. And then he just checked all the connections and he decided that he would go with Flixbus instead. And he said, yeah, because it's cheaper and it's okay. It's like it doesn't take so long and it's got like Wi-Fi, it's got like air conditioning. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty bold, Dad. You know what I mean? And I think he'd been on the bus for like 20 minutes, and I got a message from him like, the Wi-Fi doesn't work, the air conditioning doesn't work, and there's so many people. I'm like, yeah, that's why. This is why it's so much cheaper. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
it's a good whack on the Flixbus, but
But I mean, I've done a lot of traveling over the years, so I'm quite fine with traveling in different ways, and I quite like experimenting. It's like last year I was in Germany for SQL conference.
nice. Okay.
I actually caught the train over for something different, and it's actually really easy to get from where I live to Hanau by train.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
Good trains, yeah.
yeah, so I just went from here to Frankfurt, changed over, and then yeah, I was in Hanau within like I think it's like 10-20 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's very nice.
So
I love traveling by train in general. I would always pick a train over and flying. Yes,
yeah,
for one, it's good for the Umwelt. What's Umwelt in English? Oh my God, I forgot an English word. This is so annoying.
which one?
Environment. The environment. Jesus Christ. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Of course, it's good, but also it's just nice. You kind of get in the train and you sit there. There's no like security and all this pain that comes with. So when I go
oh,
to
yeah.
the Netherlands next week, I'm taking the train. It's like 6 hours in the train. Just sit myself
Go
down.
down to Brussels and then back up.
Yeah, I think I
The
stop
other,
in Duisburg or something. Then so Berlin, Duisburg, then Utrecht. Yeah.
so the other good thing about the trains between here and the UK, and it's similar as well if you're traveling by ferry,
Hmm.
is that there's no weight limit on your luggage, only a size limit.
Fair point, actually.
I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not saying that everybody should start bringing over goat bricks or anything,
but if they
but,
wanted to, they could.
but yeah, hypothetically, there is only a size limit, so you could take a whatever you want in your luggage. But I've been over to the UK before by ferry as well, and that's quite an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Not the same as it used to be. Apparently, it used to be what's known as a fast ferry, but now you have to take the slower one. It's like
Okay.
8 hours or something.
Oh, really? It's so long. I haven't been on a ferry, um, well, other than like a very short, but like I haven't been like the ferry to the UK since probably I was 19 years old. So that's going back some now. It was so I have very little experience of that. It was actually my first ever time in Berlin. I went with the school. I was over my 18th, 19th birthday. Just so happened to be around that time, and we were meant to fly over, but we ended up taking the bus and ferry, which was the long way around for sure. But my God, I remember on the way back, the water was so rough and we couldn't dock for a few hours, and I was just like sick as a dog. Yeah, good
Yeah.
times.
Like I said, the ferries between here and the UK, they're quite good. You have like a cinema in them and everything, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it depends where you are. I mean, I've caught a ferry last year, and it was quite a small one. I was in the Azores, so I was just island hopping.
yeah.
That's all right.
Not bad at all. You know, I'm gonna completely take the conversation in a different way. I wanna talk to you about fabric, mate. I mean, I love a good ramble about, random topics as much as the next person. But as you're a person who works a lot with fabric, and I'm as a person who works very lot with it, I'm just very curious as to, do you have any deeply controversial opinions on fabric at the moment, or how are you enjoying the experience? Is there certain things that you would wish were different, or looking to see some improvements on?
Well, I think like a lot of people you work with to get integration side, it would be nice if more items were supported and worked a bit more gracefully at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. So,
With certain items as well. I mean, especially from a people working with Power BI reports in particular, there's a few grumbles relating to the support for semantic models right now.
okay, yeah,
So
fair.
it would be nice if it was a bit more, yeah, well, I would say matured is not the best word, but a bit more support for various items.
Okay, that's fair.
But
I was
yeah,
actually just watching. I mean, not all, I watched. I think 5 minutes. I was busy at work, but I caught 5 minutes of the Power BI tips stream today. They were talking, I think, a fair bit about. I think also Donald was in that live stream, talking about, I think, the Git integration with Power BI and stuff. I I think for me it's really interesting because it's quite is Power BI has existed, Tyndall exactly, for obviously quite some time without Tyndall, without, Git integration, all this. I feel like people have set up like their own best practices to deal with the lack of like change management. And I think it's going to be quite a, not a hard, yeah, I think quite a hard sell to make people to move across to something which is a lot more technical, you know? Like I think, and I know like the guy said it, and I do agree with him, but if you have something set up like a SharePoint, where like, okay, that's the old one, this is the new one, you can check. It's I don't know. I think it's a cool thing to have, but how many people are going to use it? I'm curious.
well, here's the thing as well. And look at that, there's another aspect to this. You say people can check looking on a SharePoint. However, if you work for larger enterprises,
I know. Yeah.
it's done slightly differently.
Yeah.
So, and I've been through this myself with the larger companies. So, having something like the Power BI projects and Timber in place, where they can gracefully approve pull requests, etc., as well, and it's at least readable for them to understand a bit more to an extent. I think personally that's going to be great
It
because,
is
like you said,
excellent.
it's
I
going to be a
think it's
unified process.
it's a great functionality to have. I don't doubt that at all. And I think it's you if you have the know-how to use it, you should. If you don't, of course, it's always good to learn these things. But there's obviously a huge number of companies who use Power BI who are not enterprise companies, right? And who use it. And if that had existed much sooner on, let's call it the Power BI journey or the Power BI path, whatever, it would probably be because they hadn't they wouldn't have kind of established their own ways of dealing with
Yeah.
that lack of functionality. And now to say to an organization where sometimes, I mean, also, I think it's important to remember when you work with these programs, especially when you have companies and you have lots of like citizen developers and stuff, they actually don't want to know the technical side too much. They'll do as much as they can to avoid that technical side, and they'll just be using the beauty that is the drag and drop, the no code, low code stuff. So then to come on and say, oh, we've got this now, this, Tyndall get integration, you're going to need a couple of people at a company who can get deep down dirty into those topics to properly use it. Where the average person, not so much,
No. I mean, the first response that springs to my mind, very naughty, I know, it's going to keep me in a job.
Yeah, but it's true, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. I mean, a lot of us who have been using DevOps-related technologies over the years, they cater for Power BI, Synapse, SQL, etc., etc. Yeah, it's going to keep us busy.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
To be honest, it's a similar stance. So now with the Power BI projects that it was many, well, I say many years ago. Two separate things spring to mind here. The first and more recent one was the addition of DAP packs of serverless SQL pools. Now, as some people here may already be aware, before you had the DAP pack support in Azure Synapse, you had to use alternative methods, and one method was using the DBOps PowerShell module, which I'm in another video about. I'm not going to plug it. People can Google if they want. If not, that's fine.
Plug it, man. Plug it. Share the link. Go for it.
People can just type in MVP Synapse Kevin Chant and they'll find a video of it.
No, okay.
Okay, they'll find 3 videos of it, but you want the Synapse serverless one. So that was a significant shift for people, because up until that pack support was added, everybody had to come up with different methods to do the serverless contents of the serverless SQL pools to different environments. Going back even further, a lot further back, it was the same when people first started working with SQL Server as well. Database projects wasn't always there straight away. And obviously it's similar with the technologies as well. Like, for example, Azure DevOps didn't, ended up being around after a while, but before then it was Visual Studio, Team Services, etc. And that was maturing still as well. So obviously people put their own solutions in place back then, and then all new stuff came out in Azure DevOps. Yeah. And it was the same with people working with SQL Server. All of a sudden there was a database projects. It's like, wow, okay. And then at first, obviously, there was things that needed to be changed, and quite a few changes over the years. And now it's come to the stage where you don't even have to have the nice uniformed folders anymore, because you can do something called globbing now, where you can just put the files wherever and they just pick it up. But again, before then, people put their own makeshift solutions in and they had to figure things out. After a while, it started becoming adopted a bit more, but it is going to take time. It's not going to be an overnight thing. I think we all appreciate that. There are lots of different Power BI CI/CD solutions out there that people have developed and come up with. You only have to type that into your search engine of choice, and you see a barrage of all these different Power BI CI/CD solutions that people have come up with.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think, like I say, over time there'll be more adoption, especially with everything else that's happening over time with Git integration as well.
Yeah.
And deployment pipelines, and the idea that you'd be able to do it all gracefully between environments. You can do pull, so for technical stuff, people, but you can do a pull request between different workspaces now with Git integration, which is obviously quite an interesting thing. So if you want to update the contents from one workspace to another, and they're both using the same Git repository, you can do a pull request effectively in Azure DevOps. If anyone needs some help with any jargon, I've got a post about the jargon, as well as a post about how to do the workspace thing as well.
That's cool.
So like that. It's funny because I talk about it a lot, and it's getting to the stage where people go, "Oh, do you know anything about this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've got blog posts for that," and I just put them in a direction. And
love it.
Yeah, So it is good though that you can do that from a workspace perspective,
It is
and it's going to be the same as what enterprises do for all their other services. So so it's going to take a while to adopt, but at the same time, a lot of the bigger companies have already got people that work on this for other offerings, like all their data platforms and stuff like that.
Of course.
They deal with all their infrastructure as code, and this will align a bit more with that to an extent for some people.
I like the thought that it kind of makes development from the Power BI side a little bit less of a lonely task. It's quite often a one-person job, right? And it was so difficult.
So how I explain Power BI projects to a lot of people, especially if they come from a more of a data platform related background for something else, and this may raise a few eyebrows to people listening here. I say to them that conceptually it is pretty much the same as database projects, because you're effectively now working with your metadata as well, schema as code, your report, everything all as code, same as what you can do with database projects. That's my simple description for it. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated than that, but
you give them the abridged version just to make it a bit more,
makes it easier for people to understand.
For sure. Well, that's interesting. I like it. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, of course, when these things are new, it just seems like, okay, well, we'll see about that. But okay, it's a kind of like not like opening the floodgates, but rather like a small drip of an approach, as it's
it's just going to happen gradually.
Yeah,
it is.
This is true. I've been wondering about stuff. I mean, obviously, like as I said before, I don't really have. I play with Fabric, and I was happy the other day when I saw that my trial license had been extended again to 59 days. I think it was starting to get down to like 20 odd, and I was like, no, I'm running out of time. And then it got topped back up to 59, which I appreciated. I was wondering like how certain things will become a bit more redundant. Like even for example, PPU licensing. I'm wondering if that is just going to kind of slowly become not deprecated in any way, but less popular.
Less popular than using an F2. So this is actually something that came up in discussion twice this week, and I was actually in discussion with some people about this today. Because the reality is, and a lot of people don't realize this, for certain elements in Fabric, you only need a Fabric capacity. It doesn't have to be an F64 capacity either. So if you want to use deployment pipelines, and people have got a choice, do you either want to buy a Power BI premium license or a Fabric F2 capacity? I think I know which one people will go for. Obviously, the F2 capacities are a lot cheaper than a Power BI Premium P1. So, and it's the same for Git integration as well, and people don't realize, and XML endpoints. It's all any Fabric capacity. Doesn't have to be an F64. You can do it with an F2, which is very, very cheap.
Yeah, exactly that. When they announced the pricing, it became immediately a lot more interesting, because I was initially scared of the pricing, because I'm basically scared of anything where it's not basically where it's like pay per usage. I don't like that. But when you see it's like you just got like your flat monthly fee, I was like, okay, that looks more manageable. Looks a bit more easy to sell,
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and it's helped adoption a lot. I think and development as well. Is definitely the lower capacities. I know a lot of people who test up with the F2 capacities, and you lurk on I'll say X, formerly known as Twitter, or Blue Sky, LinkedIn, etc. You will see lots of people bring out statuses going, look what I can do on F2, and they're doing some really good stuff.
No,
so
it's quite cool.
I think, like you said, over time, if people realizing they can do more with these lower Fabric capacities, the other licenses are just going to be like, well,
getting left behind like data marts, right?
Data marts which are still supported by deployment pipelines.
There you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. The weird thing is, I was looking at all this. I was looking at like PPU. I was like looking at PPU, like the cost of it and the benefit of it and what comes with it. And I was like, one of the questions was data marts. I was like, let's look at data marts, and I was using okay. These were it was okay. I was interested again. I'd used them like a while ago, and I'd done not much with them. But after like a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, data marts are actually all right. Then I suddenly realized, but not really. Like, I don't understand why I would be using this, to be honest. So
It's
yeah.
like a few other things that come out and people play with, and at first we think, yeah, this is great, and then after a while we're like, well, actually,
Mm.
we have got another alternative, or we can do this actually using something else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I like this data mod, exactly. True.
I can say a few other things as well, not just within the Power BI area relating to that, but I won't. I'm too much of a gentleman.
I thought that about you, so I was like, no, you're too nice to say such things. I guess, I mean, I'm not an MVP, but I'm guessing at some point there's going to be some kind of announcement that maybe data marts are going to go go bye bye.
I honestly could not tell you.
Well, even if you had the information, you wouldn't be able to anyway. So I would
No,
never
I would try and do a poker face, and go, no, I honestly don't know. I can't tell you, just like this.
get you.
But yeah, but like I said, there has been other technologies over the years. I know you've even stuff I've worked on, which at first you think this is great, and then after a while it's like, well, actually, there is another way to do this, which is better, or something which is slightly better. Like I said, there is one particular SQL Server related product, but I'm not going to say its name because I know that the product team put a lot of work into it initially,
You're a nice
which
person.
is being deprecated now. So,
Mm.
but yeah, at the time, a lot of people experimented with it, and the concept did seem good. But now, obviously, there's other things that have come along which have caught
Sure, of
people's
course.
eyes instead.
Yeah, it happens.
And
It's inevitable, really.
the, at the end of the day, if you're gonna have to, it's like we were talking about earlier. If you have to set up manually a complicated environment, or you've got to remember lines and lines of scripts, or you can just go into somewhere like Fabric or some other Spark Compute based products and just do a few clicks and you're up and running, then it's no brainer, really.
Of course, yeah. I tell just thinking about this sort of features and stuff that didn't work out. Just for me personally, how I thought they would. There was a few years ago now. It was like, oh, this is going to change everything. It's so amazing. And it was composite models. For me, are just not that. I just don't enjoy them at all. I don't like using them. And it remember when they got announced, oh my, this is groundbreaking. This is changing this, and this. And I was like, I don't okay. And then once I was like, don't use composite models. It's too much. It's too confusing. Just stay away from them.
But of course, for those of you watching this, you want to study for the PL300 exam, of course, you need to know about composite models. So,
Knowing about them, that's what you know
yeah,
about them, you learn about them,
learn about them.
and then never use them.
It's like somewhere, but then it's like any other data platform certification stuff. There's things that you're going to learn, which the reality is some of it you probably will not end up using, but you need the knowledge for just in case.
Yeah, exactly. And as to be fair, Donald says here, competent models are good if the dimensions are small. I'll concede this point.
Yeah.
Now, one second. I think someone has a question. There you go. Have you done any production work in Fabric, or all still testing POC?
Yeah, so we do have some production workloads using Fabric, but as I kind of joked about earlier, I work for a large international company. We have 70,000 employees. We have lots of clients worldwide, etc. So yeah, we do have some clients that have got production workloads.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we obviously the Dutch say eat your own dog food, but that's not necessarily the best way to do it. But we actually have our own Fabric tenant in place as well. So we're our own client, so to speak, as well. So we've implemented Fabric for ourselves. Amongst other things, we have like a Fabric University and all that as well. It's quite involved. But yeah, we do have some big clients that are using Fabric workloads in production.
Fair enough. I've heard that. I mean, I've heard like I've asked this question a couple of times. Have you seen it as old as people testing? But I mean, there's been, I guess, companies use them for quite some time. I mean, even before it was in preview, I guess there was companies using it as to test it as well there as well, right? I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they went eternity and then just let it loose on the road. It's obviously, yeah, there's always, whenever a new product comes out, and if you keep your eye out, I mean, I can say this isn't a public domain, but obviously, if you watch the digital launch videos from last year and the videos from Microsoft Build, you already have another consulting company
Yeah.
say that they have been doing stuff already with the product. And it's been the same historically over the years. I mean, many years ago, I remember there was a new feature come out. I say new feature. In-memory OOTP came out literally about 10 years ago now.
All
And
right.
then as soon as it came out, the first thing everybody saw was it's out, but this company has been using it for absolutely ages. And
Interesting.
straight away, they released all of this online, and it was all common knowledge this company had used it. So it's the same for a lot of
Yeah.
others products
Yeah.
as well. That comes out that, yeah, things have been tested beforehand. I mean, like I said, there
Absolutely.
was a private preview as well, which I
Yeah.
was a part of for Fabric. So
That's
yeah,
cool. That must be
obviously it's been
fun.
out for some time.
How does that work? Did they just like approach you and say basically, I had this product, like just come and have a play around with it, test it, and see how you feel about
You
it?
know, I have this thing called a no disclosure agreement.
I
That's my
mean,
answer.
I mean, very, very generally, can you say like, is it just like they open up to specific people, or can you not even answer that? I don't want to get you in trouble, of course. I'm just curious.
Trying to think if I can. Well,
Okay, then don't. I
put
don't
it
want to put
this
you in the spot,
way:
mate.
I'm allowed to say that I was part of the private preview,
Hmm.
and so are some other MVPs.
Okay, okay, okay. That's enough.
And
Look, I'll change the topic just to make you feel a bit more comfortable. So, and also, someone agreed with me. So when people agree with me, I like bringing up the comments. So here we go. We got NJ saying that he also doesn't like composite models. He's an MVP who's never used composite models. There you go. So yeah.
you see, I would say an MVP's never used composite models apart from when studying for the exam.
Exactly. Of course, if he's learned all about them, but in production, he's tested them, right? But in production, there you go. Never used them. Oh yeah, yeah. Mate, I don't want to get in any more trouble, so I won't ask any more questions about private preview. What are you gonna do?
Well,
No, yeah.
like I said, the only thing I've said is the same as what's in the public domain. If you go onto
Exactly.
your social media platform of choice,
Yeah. Blue sky, right?
Blue Sky, definitely. Now they've opened up,
Now they're
everybody
open,
join
exactly.
Blue Sky.
Yeah. Do people still use Mastodon, by the way? I used that when Twitter all started going crazy with Mastodon and then other stuff.
I'm still on a Mastodon server somewhere. I've heard a few different things about Mastodon, but yeah, I've still an account on the server on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I
interesting
was
stuff.
I really wanted everyone to go back to Tumblr because I maintain that Tumblr is an amazing social media site. It's so good because if you look at it, I mean, obviously no one's going to do it. The social media only work if there's people on it. That is the nature of social media. No one uses Tumblr, but it's really good. You can post like the way you can post videos, how much content you can like. It's so good, but just no one uses it anymore.
Yeah, but then at the same time, that was pretty much the same as MySpace.
Yeah,
I'm going a
exactly.
bit far back again now for people, but yeah, I mean, it's quite common
MySpace.
knowledge that MySpace was the reason that some singers got famous in the first place because they were just posting their videos on there and got noticed and
True.
all that.
Which is, guess what people do with TikTok these days, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
to an extent.
I remember like I mean, when you use MySpace, it was kind of like a different time of social media. It wasn't really that widely, particularly interesting. But I remember I was speaking to a friend and she was like, oh, there's this new website you got to try called Facebook. And I was like, no, man, I don't want Facebook. It's like, I've already got a MySpace. And she's like, no, try it. It's different. It's really good. So of course, then MySpace, and then I moved to Facebook and then, not that I
Just
use it
went.
anymore, But that was when it all started to kick off, really, you know.
I was trying to think. Before all of that, I was actually using Friends Reunited.
I forgot about Friends Reunited. That was brilliant. And I think there was a German version called Study was it Study Fortset or something. There was all
I
these different like
can't remember.
local versions, you know. Crazy. Actually, you know
Yeah, I
what?
think
Sorry, please.
the Dutch apparently had their own version as well, and I can't remember what that's called either. My wife pointed out it was on some TV program the other day.
Friends Reunited was classic. I forgot about that one. That was good. I was watching this, just thinking about old stuff or whatever. Old, you know. I was watching an episode of the US version of The Office just today, and it's really funny how you can see how things have aged in really small ways or just different ways. Someone wanted to take, it was Toby wanted to take a photograph of him and Pam together. You want like, and they couldn't do it because no one had a camera. And he's like, has anyone got a camera? And no one had a camera. And I'm like, that's weird. Just to think of.
These days, everyone will be like, "Ching."
Yeah, exactly. A group of people with no camera just seems like such a strange thing, but it's just these really subtle ways of aging things, you know. Ah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Love it, love it. So anyway, mate, I don't want to keep you too long, and I really appreciate you jumping in at last minute to help me out. You're a savior, mate. Thank you so much.
That's not a problem. Like I said, apologies for being a couple of minutes late, especially for everybody else watching as well. Technical issues, they happen, and we just have to roll with it when they do.
We do indeed. But luckily, the people who are watching, they all know the situation very well, so it's all good, and I really appreciate you coming anyway. So I'll say thank you to everyone who was here to join and ask all the questions in the chat. It's always much more fun having you here, and as we talk about our data and random nonsense. And Kevin, thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. It was a very fun chat.
No problem.
All right, mate.
Cheers.
Take care, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.